Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
No, Zach. We're not bringing back DX. We're the main event, remember?
But I love DX.
I know you like DX, and we can do a DX show later, but right now we got to keep it original. We got to do it like we rehearsed.
Ah, like we planned.
Right. Just like we planned. So, I'm going to tell them, we are the music, the sweet music between your ears.
The voice that grinds your gears.
I am the legend of the bluegrass who loves kicking ass.
I am the whiskey-drinking, weight-slaying Hoosier heavyweight.
And we are
the main event.
Always under attack, always coming in last, bringing up the past. No one owes you anything, I think. You need a shotgun blast, a kick in the ass, so paranoid. Watch your back!
Hello, all you beautiful motherfuckers out there. This is Evan Wells. I'm here with my tag team partner,
Zach Mendenhall.
We are coming at you live, finally, officially, from iTunes after a month-long wait. So,
Month. I feel like it's been 3 goddamn months.
It's probably been longer than a month, but I just say a month just to make it hurt a little less.
Very well.
So with that being said, this is going to be our first official episode, and what we're going to kind of do today, our show's going to run a little bit longer than normal. Usually we want to try to do 45 minutes to an hour, but we're going to kind of introduce ourselves.
We've never had a 45-minute show, nor will we ever, because, well, we have the gift of gab, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why we are doing a podcast, because we love the podcast format, and we are the main event tag team podcast champions, hence the reason why you are hearing us now in this format. An hour is at a minimum, and I foresee, at least in the future, that it goes just a little bit longer and continues. Because you know what? When you're as good as we are, it's easy to fucking talk, baby.
I mean, we didn't just go from the amateur league of SoundCloud just to iTunes with nothing. I mean, we had to be good to get here, right? That's how that works.
Absolutely. Hey, we're drinking some of the best scotch that we can get our hands on. We're talking on the best mic that we can be speaking into. Baby, it don't get no better than it is right now.
That's right. So with that being said, we're going to go back and introduce ourselves. Zach, I'm actually going to start off with you, buddy. Give us the Time Magazine article of Zachary Mendenhall.
If Time Magazine was the cover and it would be on there, it would be a born and raised Hoosier who spent a decade in the Marine Corps and has come back to settle down his roots in one of his other hometowns, if you will, in Evansville, Indiana, to start a family and continue on living a semi-normal life, if you will, that enjoys all the great things that men should enjoy: football, pro wrestling, MMA, really good whiskey and scotch, and craft beer. And there's one other thing: a staunch defender of the Second Amendment rights of every American. Very pro-gun. You'll hear a lot about that with me on this podcast.
Very, very good. So, do you want to talk about like anything specifically with you? Like, do you want your audience to know anything else? You know, obviously you're very, very stout on the idea of your Second Amendment rights. You know, tell us a little bit about who else you are other than just that. Are you a family man? Are you?
I am. Currently married. Hopefully forever. Love you, baby. 8 years.
I have a couch if something happens.
I have a 4-year-old son and a daughter on the way that's due May 20th. All God willing, Leela will be here then and not before then. Yeah, man. Love the family. Tight knit. This will sound crazy to you all because 2 years sounds like a long time, but I've been back in Indiana for the last 2 years, and it has been a great experience because I've actually been able to, get the family back together, if you will. Being gone for a decade, literally being stationed in North Carolina for that time, and being a Marine in the infantry, I went overseas and was gone off training all the time. So I lost that ability to have a real tight-knit family per se, being able to see everyone. So I really go out of my way to do that now. And that's my big thing, because if anything else, you people know out there in the podcast world, you're always on borrowed time with, some of your family members and friends. So keep them close and enjoy the time you get with them. Outside of that, man, it's kind of like what I talked about. Love my sports, love my wrestling when we can fit it in. It's a passion, and that's why we're here speaking into this beautiful microphone right now, spitting the game that we have in this podcast world, trying to make something out of nothing. An award-winning podcast that hasn't won a motherfucking thing yet.
But it will happen. And I tell you what, man, I know you really like this mic, and I do too. Like, this thing is phenomenal. Like, it's the AJ Styles of microphones.
Yes.
And I have to agree with you. I mean, it's pretty fucking sweet. We're in stunning just HD clarity. I mean, I can't tell you. I feel like I'm in the fucking big leagues right now.
If you listen to the very first episode that is on iTunes, you will hear the difference, and it is a world of difference. So, hey, a little bit of the technological upgrade, if you will. We're going to drop other episodes that we've already recorded, but this is the one we want you to hear first, because we got rid of the, I wouldn't say nervousness, but we really found who we are in the last couple months, and we've literally been recording for almost 3 months now. Actually, I think today would be number 12, so it would be right at 3 months that we come up with this idea to get together and start cutting a podcast that is all about what we like. Now, here's the thing. We talked about wrestling and sports and all these different things. It's going to be on the fly. We want this podcast to be driven by our passions and by our fans. So please hit us up with suggestions, things you like, things you don't like once you hear it. And, hey, we're trying to make this legitimate. It is a hobby for us, if nothing else. I mean, it's a good way for us to kill some time, drink some good beer, some good scotch, and talk about the shit that we like.
Indeed. And with that, I am going to also introduce myself before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of what our show is about. Of course, Zach has told you everything about him. With me, I was born and raised for the most part in Henderson, Kentucky, moved to Morganfield, Kentucky for a while, the big metropolis of a city that is. 25 years old, went to the University of Kentucky. Didn't really work out for me there. Was actually going to be a dentist and decided that, I didn't want to be in debt for the rest of my life. So moved to Evansville, Indiana, and been slaying, vans in Evansville ever since. I love playing guitar. Kind of a big music buff. I enjoy WWE. Favorite wrestler right now actually is AJ Styles. Big fan of him. Also a big fan of Finn Balor as well. Lifetime Chicago Bulls fan. When I was born, my mother and father dressed me with the garb of Jordans on my feet, and I was wrapped in a Chicago Bulls blanket, and have been a fan ever since. Also with the NFL, I am a really big New York Jets fan, and it actually kind of hurts when I say it because we've sucked ever since I've been alive. So, it is what it is. But when your parents make you watch Flash Gordon all the time, you kind of think, well, if he's the quarterback of the New York Jets, something has to be going right eventually. So, yeah.
True.
That's
True.
Kind of just a little bit about me.
I guess I'll throw my own 2 cents in here as far as sports teams go. So me and Evan do share some things when it comes to sports. I am also a Chicago Bulls diehard supporter. I was able to watch the Jordan years and the dominance that man brought to the NBA court. And by far, in my own humbled personal opinion, he is the greatest basketball player without question. I am a lifelong Chicago Bears fan. Again, a little painful. We've got a ring. We won by more than a touchdown, Evan. We had historic defenses and great ball players. Sweetness, Walter Payton running in the backfield. A storied franchise that has fallen on a lot of hard years. I am
Hard
a proud,
times, baby.
yeah. To quote Dusty Rhodes, I am a proud, especially this year alone, Chicago Cubs fan of a lot of years. I've watched my boys struggle up and down, and to finally pull off that World Series win in just an epic fashion, and what I would say would be an instant fucking classic Game 7. It was just phenomenal. Man, Notre Dame through and through for my college team. And I'm slowly trying to get into the world of hockey. One of the guys at work is a huge St. Louis Blues fan. I feel I should probably be rooting for the Blackhawks since all my other teams are Chicago and they have more championships because the Blues have none.
I mean, you've got what, Pat Kane. I mean,
I don't know.
I think that's his name.
I haven't got that deep in this shit yet.
How do you even spell hockey? Is it
Double
HAKEY?
hockey sticks. I no clue. But needless to say, I wish they would put it more on TV so I could actually catch the fucking games and start learning.
There's probably like WWE has like the network. There's probably some sort of hockey thing for that.
No way. It's like the lowest televised sport next to fucking golf, I think.
I don't know if it's the lowest. Something that's kind of weird that I have to talk about since we're on hockey is that there are so many people around the area, like in southern Indiana.
Huge hockey fans.
Yeah, and it's
mind blowing.
Yeah, like we have fucking, was it Swanders?
Yeah, Swanders Ice Rink, local for any of my fans out there right now that are listening that aren't local to southern Indiana, especially Evansville. There's Swanders Ice Rink, and that's where they put on. It's a double-A minor team. It's a small team now. Thunderbolts, because that goes back to our World War II heritage here in Evansville where we used to build planes. Evansville used to be a huge industrial place because of the river, back in the day when we couldn't fly shit and move it on.
So they replaced the Iceman, right?
Yep, because the Iceman pulled a real dick move and moved to Owensboro.
How's that working out for them? They don't have a stadium to go to.
Hey, whatever. But neither here nor there. Hey, one of the things we're going to hit on this podcast, I'm going to get out in the open right away. We are politically incorrect. We will cuss. We do not talk about politics. We don't care about your opinion on politics, and we really don't give a fuck if we offend you. That's not what this is about. This is actually a break away from all of that crap. This is a working man's podcast. Me and Evan work a job where we're out there 50, 60 hours a week busting our humps, doing hard labor, and we enjoy it. This is for our people to get a different view, a fan's view, if you will, to the things that entertain us. Are we going to hit everything that's out there in the sports world? Absolutely not, because we're not that kind of show. We don't want to be Fox Sports. We don't want to be ESPN. I don't want to do a 20-minute segment, on how great Aaron Rodgers is because he's a Green Bay Packer and I fucking hate him. All right? I know he's phenomenal. Fuck you guys.
We don't give a shit about who Tom Brady, which Bleacher Report wrote a stunning article on about how Tom Brady
has beat no one this year.
And how about he's going to vote for Kanye West in 2022 or what the fuck ever. I mean, seriously, like all the sports world the way it is today, which ESPN in a couple of years isn't even going to exist because they spend way too much money and they don't make anything.
They spent, to throw it out there, they spent $100 million on the Raiders-Texans game last weekend. It made $25 million that they were getting off of TV rights. They didn't make the other 75 by people in the fucking stands, I promise you. They lost their fucking asses on that game.
And they do that for all sorts of shit. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to keep in mind, too, that Disney owns ESPN.
Sure.
So...
But eventually the paycheck's got to run out, man.
Well, yeah, they're
going
to be looking at, their Star Wars and their Marvel franchises they picked up, and they're going to be like, well, ESPN doesn't fucking... make their money.
Which Star Wars and Marvel is great. We are also turbo nerds around here, so we are not just technically inclined to sports. We are both diehard comic book fans from back in the day. Evan's more of the Star Wars fan than I am, but needless to say, hey, that shit's right up our alley. And again, that tells you more about this podcast. It's not going to be wrapped around a single thing. It's what tickles our proverbial fancy.
Yes. I'm also, another thing too, I lean a little bit more towards DC than I do Marvel.
Bullshit.
I enjoy Marvel and I'm fluent with it, but I've always been a big fan of your
Laser Lad, Robin, and Superboy, and fucking stupid.
This guy. I've always been a fan of Batman, Superman. Flash has been a big thing for me. I got into Green Arrow more whenever the TV show actually came out because I actually started to care.
If you ever read the comic books, they weren't like that.
Yeah, that's when I actually started to care about Green Arrow, which they did a good depiction of that character, and
sure.
they've done great with it. Stephen Amell is actually my doppelganger. If you look at him and look at a picture of me, you really can't tell a difference. So yeah, but we're gonna kind of talk about the show itself. You know, Zach has alluded to several different things that we are going to talk about here. You know, again, we're not going to cover every single thing that happens. There's going to be a huge emphasis on wrestling. Yes, we're going to cuss. We're going to say motherfuckers. We're going to say goddams. We're going to say any other word that you can think of.
So, needless to say, if your children are in the car, don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Put us on when you're headed into work, when you're going to buy the groceries, when you have your headphones in, because it's not about being Again, it's a working man's podcast, or woman. I know you're all out there just the same as we are, and we look forward to you being our fans. It's a different type of podcast, and it's two guys shooting the shit over the things they like, and hopefully the things that you enjoy as well.
Yes, and another thing that we do as well, kind of aside from the sports universe, is that on occasion, Zach and I will get real Dr. Phil-ish, and people sometimes will ask us questions or subjects will get brought up at work, and we'll talk out and we'll bro out about them. You know, it's not going to be like some fucking cry fest like, oh, I love you, man, bullshit like that.
There will be no changing of tampons while we're here.
No, definitely not. But we do have a I don't want to say sentimental side, but we have a human side to us as well. It's like if there's something that really hits us, like when people were bashing Conor McGregor for the quote of absolutely apologizing to fucking nobody, we had to make a stand and make people understand. Of course, this was back when we were just on SoundCloud, that you know, you have to understand the work that man put in. Like, when you go from the bottom to reach to the top, you're allowed to be fucking proud about it.
You go from being fucking literally starving to living on initially, you know, what he said before, pretty much government assistance to try to reach his dream, yeah. I'll spit it out there, folks, don't worry. Is, you know, how could you not be more proud of yourself? Regardless if he loses the title, I don't give a fuck if he loses the next 3 fights. He hit the pinnacle of his craft. He's beat the who's who. He's whipped people's asses. He's avenged the one fucking loss that he has on his UFC record. I mean, it doesn't get any better. He's got the self-proclaimed best professional boxer in the world in Floyd Mayweather begging for a fight and wanting to do big numbers there, which I think would be horrible.
I don't know that Floyd is begging for a fight. I think
begging for a paycheck.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, they're talking numbers, and the numbers keep getting higher every time I see it on Bleacher Report.
Well, because Conor's, hey, listen, the motherfucker may not be college smart, but he understands money, and he's goddamn street smart, and he knows right now, at his age, he's at the pinnacle of his popularity. And Floyd is still there. He's sitting at that 49-0 mark. And 50 would break the record and make him the all-time greatest. Well, though it would be, to me, tainted to have a guy who's never been in the professional boxing world to get that 50th win. But then it's also a great risk because he's not a boxer. He's not looking for the jab-punch combo. He may be looking for the overhand right that puts Mayweather to the mat and Night Night, and then it's a huge asterisk in the boxing world to have, hey, an MMA guy come in and just knock that dude the fuck out. Good night, Smokey. Trying to wake his ass up, Debo the straight fuck out of him. It's a possibility. When people say, "Oh, there's no way it would happen," it's a goddamn possibility. People said for 100 and what? I don't know, some odd years that the Cubs wouldn't win the World Series. Eat a fat dick there. It's always a possibility.
They ain't afraid of no goat.
In the fight game, because as what's the cat on SmackDown?
Oh, James Ellsworth.
The man with two hands has a fighting chance.
Exactly. So, and then the last thing that we want to touch over as well with our podcast. Our podcast, the goal that we're trying to set here is that we want to keep things local. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, anybody that's listening tonight, if you know someone that is interested in like music production or has an affluency with music, or if you know someone that's really good with imaging, the main event is actually we're trying to build a team. We're trying to be like the 72 and 10 Bulls, because that just has a better ring to it than 73 and 9 Steph Curry. So again, what we're looking for is we want someone to, if you're interested and listen to the podcast, listen to it all the way through. If you like what you're hearing, if you think you can find something you can help improve on the music scene with us, and you want to create an intro for us. And again, we're looking for local artists only. Whether you just sit around and you dick around with SoundCloud at home, or if you've got some recording that you use, or if you're in a fucking band and you want one of your songs to be the intro rather than Shine Down for our intro, hit us up. We're going to give you our email at the end of the show, and you can hit us up and we'll listen to the song. If we like it, we'll put it on there.
If nothing else, we'll bring you in to what I will right now name the dungeon, and we'll talk business, we'll talk shop, and see if you can't work something out for us in our vibe, if you will, our feel for the show.
Absolutely. And on the other side, for like the graphic design area, we need someone to create a logo for us as well. So if there are any Photoshop nerds, or if there's someone out there that has a graphic design degree or whatever, and you want to create an image for us for our podcast as our symbol, like the bat symbol that shines up in the sky over Evansville, Indiana, hit us up. Again, we're going to give the email at the end of the show. Send us some of your work. Do whatever you want to do, and we'll tell you what we think. And again, if we like it, we'll actually bring you on the show and we'll actually talk about what you do. Like if you're a graphic designer, then tell us what you like, and we'll do it. We'll hook you up.
Absolutely, because this podcast is not just simply controlled by the wrestling or sports world, and that's the one thing we want to do. We're looking to reach out to athletes, to people in professions that aren't everyday, to things that interest us, to learn, to teach, to push. Because, man, that's one thing we're good at, is talking, even if it's just talking shit.
We want to make Evansville great again. That's my one.
That was a political endorsement by one Evan Wells.
That's my one political standpoint I'll make, and it has nothing to do with Trump at all. Just it's a nice catchphrase. I mean, honestly,
it's a great goddamn catchphrase.
Exactly.
Now, let's go ahead. I'm gonna cut you off because that's how this shit is. We don't have bullet points. We just roll.
Well, we gotta tell them too. Our big thing that we do. We haven't even said it yet.
Yes. This is true.
We do one thing that we're going to do every show, every week, is that we're going to do what we call the brew review. And what we do is we go to local liquor stores in Evansville, Indiana. Occasionally we'll cross those bridges into the tri-state area, into Henderson and Owensboro over time. And we are going to pick craft beers, not the bullshit that you get from fucking Sam Adams and Anheuser-Busch. We're going to be doing, your Three Floyds. Your, what's the one you got tonight? The
Ballast Point.
Ballast Point. We're going to be looking at Sierra Nevada.
Legitimate craft beer companies that are across the country that we're going to try something new, whether it's an IPA, which for anyone that's interested in getting into the craft beer scene, Indian Pale Ale is what it stands for, to stouts, to lagers, to just whatever as we walk through a store and me and Evan take turns, we don't even get together. I say, hey man, I got it this week, and I roll to, a local liquor store, and oh man, that one really catches my eye. That sounds great. I'm going to grab a 6-pack of that, and we're going to try it. The big thing with the craft beer that we try on air is we've never had it. So you're getting our raw, uncut, personal view on that beer. Is it good? Is it complete shit? Does it finish well? Would you drink it? Would you ever buy it again? You're going to hear it here. It can influence you the way it want, or you can just be like, oh man, this guy's fucking crazy. I love that beer.
Yeah, and you can hop on Facebook after the show's over, and you can tell us, if we're full of shit or not. I mean, we might fight you over it.
Or suggest what you would like us to try next.
Yeah, or suggest that, or we can try to fight over it.
I'm all about some suplexes.
I'm just in a fighting mood. I can't help it.
He's a very angry little man.
Yeah, a little man. Listen, I've been getting gains, son.
He has been getting gains.
I can bench press more than my weight now, and I'm impressed with that. So
hey, for the first time in your life, that is a good thing.
Right.
Hey, listen, again, right there, kids. It's raw, it's uncut, and it's not scripted. That's how we roll. So we're going to jump into what I would say is all about the United Kingdom Championship in the World Wrestling Entertainment. Almost said Federation because I'm old school like that, motherfuckers. The WWE and the tournament they put on this weekend with the UK Championship. Now, I got to watch all the first round. Evan didn't. We're currently semi-viewing the second round where they're going to crown the champ. We took some notes. Thank you, Bleacher Report. We'll give you credit where credit is due on what happened. Speaking frankly about it, I enjoyed a completely and utterly different show than what is normal from SmackDown and Raw, what is a great show in Next, what is becoming somewhat of a semi-stale show, I feel like, with 205 Live. It had some, it was running good, and it's kind of getting a little lackluster right now. This here, the UK Championship tourney and whatever it turns into, which I'm hoping is a weekly show or at least a bi-weekly show, has been very fresh. They're not the same wrestlers you see every day. Again, we've made this point before on other podcasts. These guys are dudes you could walk into the mall or you could walk into your local convenience store and you would see. It isn't some 7-foot, 350-pound, muscle-bound mountain, from Game of Thrones. It's, these motherfuckers are 5'9", 180 pounds. I think the heaviest guy is right around my weight. He's like 255. They're normal people that you would see every day, and they're doing some phenomenal stuff. Now, the British style, or that's what they coin here, the UK style, if you will, is I wouldn't say very different. It's a good blend of technical wrestling and Japanese strong style that when they lay in their shots, they're putting it in, folks.
Yes, they are. I mean, literally, like the hits that these guys are putting off is kind of like I compared it to 205 Live earlier with Zach. Is that these guys when they connect, I mean, it fucking just rings throughout the arena. They are not fucking playing around. They have a lot of rawness to them. It's like for the guys that watch Next, it's better than Next as far as their cleanliness on their techniques. However, there are a lot of stutters. Like, there are a lot of high-profile moves that they'll do. And then before they hit, like, the big finisher or, like, a big drop kick, they kind of stutter for a second and then hit it. The execution is great when they do the move, but they kind of wait for a second. Like, they're like, oh, shit, like, it's a big deal. And then I drop kick you in the face, and it looks awesome. But it'd be nice if it were more fluid.
Yep.
But you got to remember, too, these guys, a lot of them are amateur wrestlers. If you guys you would see in the mall every day,
they're getting their first shot.
Yeah, they're getting their shot, and they really are, like, they're putting it out there. I will say that a lot of the promo and the mic work has been great. Mm-hmm. They're doing just an amazing job of selling their characters, like the Bruiserweight against Mark Andrews. Like he's
Petey Dunn.
Yeah, Petey Dunn.
Petey Dunn is what they call it, but I'm gonna call him Petey because I think he's a dickhole. Though I love the gimmick, he is a real ass. And I think if they take him out of the UK Championship Series and put him in with the 205 Live crew, he will be an automatic main eventer heel because he is just a prick. I mean, he's rude, he's crude, he's cheating, he's bending digits that aren't supposed to be moving in different ways.
He has a sweet bear tattoo on his knee.
Yeah, that is a bear. I thought it was a wolf earlier. It's a fucking bear.
No, that is a bear all day long.
And he's ugly as sin. I will say that too. That boy is just not good. But to be quite honest, it was nice to see the UK Championship Series go and watch something new for once. Because we've never heard of any of these guys, really. And us being lifelong fans of wrestling, though it was mainly WWE, because for a lot of years you couldn't get anything else on TV. Guys like this that haven't got the chance to show their trade and craft. So it's interesting to see, it's fun to see that WWE is finally opening up and really trying to bring in different stuff to compete and continue to rebrand themselves. I've enjoyed it so far, I would have to say. It's different. Nigel McGuinness, who is a British legend, and Michael Cole, who I was very surprised they had him on, because he's the main Raw commentator on here. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the excitement of the new event or whatever, but I'm going to give Michael Cole credit for once, because I hate his commentary. He sounds like a completely new person on here. And it's just great. He's giving freaking play-by-play, and both of them are feeding off one another, and it just sounds really good.
It's not like play-by-play like Joe Buck in the NFL where he states the most obvious of things.
Well, see, the reason his jersey's dirty is because he got thrown to the ground.
It's like, no shit, Joe Buck. No one gives a fuck about what you're saying. I don't even know why the fuck you're here.
Well, the reason why is because when John Madden retired, they need someone to stick out the most brutally obvious shit that happened in the game, so they hired Joe Buck.
Well, you see, Aaron Rodgers, he threw 30 for 60 tonight, which is 50%, and we attribute that to his left nutsack being a little bit lower than his right this afternoon. Typically, when it's lowered to the right, he goes 40 for 60, which is just a little bit above 50%. More to you, Colin.
Yeah, exactly. That is Joe Buck in a nutshell. But regardless, getting back to the UK Championship Series, it was good getting to see a lot of fresh faces that I've never seen before. The striking, as we've already said, was very hard, strong style, if you will, like the Japanese have done overseas. And there were some different finishers, which was nice to see. I was surprised by this. Anyone who knows wrestling history and knows the Chris Benoit scandal that happened years ago when he had, affectionately I would say, a psychotic break, and he unfortunately murdered his wife and child and then himself, the WWE pretty much banned any of his maneuvers. He had the flying headbutt, you could no longer do that. He had the crippler crossface, he could no longer do that. And I saw both those maneuvers in this tournament. Now, I don't know if that was kind of paying homage to the European heritage that Chris had, or if they just decided to say, hey, it's been enough time, we can move past this. But it was different to see it.
I think that it's been enough time, honestly. I mean, there probably is some homage to it. But, I mean, honestly, it's been, gosh, how long has it been now? Like 10 years?
I would say we're close to that, right around there.
So
maybe a little less, but not much.
For those who don't know what happened, Chris Benoit killed himself, his wife, and his kids. It was a terrible incident. Shouldn't have never happened. He should have tried to get some help for what he was going through, which I don't think they ever really.
No, they never explained. Of course, people are like, "Oh, it was roid rage." I'm sorry, kids, but roid rage is you can look up the medical stuff like that. That's not the case. The guy had issues. But nonetheless, it was good to see actually on air some of those maneuvers performed and to see a really different style. A lot of the finishers that happened here were stuff that you don't currently see in the WWE, and that's what I want. There are variations. Just guys hitting just different suplex style, just all kinds of shit, man. Laying them out, twisting them up, lariats that were getting dropped, which were phenomenal. It was refreshing to see a new product where it wasn't next guys, it's the just slight step above. It wasn't the 205 Live guys who are just trying to do high wire daredevil shit. Well, it was a good in between.
Speaking of 205 Live, you do have to admit though, was kind of cool seeing Neville come out and do his little promo to where he's always talked about how he's never put forth and never taken into consideration for big events. It was kind of cool to see him come out in the second round here, like in the semifinals, if you will. That was pretty neat. Of course, Neville is just, as far as cruiserweights go, like he's a fucking just monster.
Becoming a monster heel.
Yeah,
which is great. But I mean, so some of the wrestlers that we've seen out here that you have Joseph Connors, who performed a Don't Look Down. It was his DLD, as he calls it. And it's kind of a variation of more or less a pancake, but it's backwards. Petey Dunn does, it's a variation of a T-bone suplex, which was really nice. Sam Greenwall, or Grandwall, however you want to pronounce it, he was the one that did the flying headbutt, reminiscent of one Chris Benoit.
Which that was nasty.
Yeah, it was. He hit it from long distance. Trent Seven, which apparently is huge in the UK, because I've seen tons of people wearing the Seven Army shirts, or maybe it was just family, who knows. But they were at the Empress Arena, and I think it was Blackpool, England. It was sold out. The arena looked great. It's a classical building. If you don't have WWE Network, you're really missing out for the price. And
it's $10 a month.
I know. It's the Netflix of wrestling, if you will. Get it. Check this place out. It's pretty badass. But all in all, the wrestlers did a great job. And it come down to the very end where you have Tyler Bate, a 19-year-old United Kingdom resident, who walks away with the championship. And, I mean, that right there should tell you something about that young man. One, a billion-dollar corporation had the nuts enough to go, no, seriously, this kid's got it. He's been perfecting his craft, let's say, for a minimum of 3 years. Probably, that's about it. And to be able to slap the strap on him and him perform to the level that he did in the highest show he's ever been on says just phenomenal things about the kid. I'm really looking forward to the continuance of the UK series, and I think it'll be a big hit.
I think it will too. I'm interested to see if it's going to become its own show by itself, or if they're going to take some of these superstars and put them into the shows that already exist. And I'm talking about, putting some on Raw, putting some on SmackDown, and maybe throwing some in the next. Honestly, I would like to see it be its own show, because I think you could draw so many other athletes just from the UK alone into this arena. And I mean, you could develop new championships other than just the United Kingdom Championship. I mean, there could be other championships that come out that you could create.
You have tag series. I mean, you could keep it basic. I would keep it with the heavyweight, I wouldn't even say heavyweight. You could keep it with the United Kingdom Championship and maybe some tag belts to get you a division there. Or even a women's championship if they have that, because they're keeping it European, which for me, keep it true to form.
Yes.
Keep it just European.
I even have an idea for like another title belt if they go with their own show. You could do like the Queen, like rather than be just the tag team champions, be the Queen's Knighthood or the Knights of the Queen as a tag team. and that could be like your belt.
I like
Like,
it.
just,
I like
you
the
know-
ideas. Instead of the Spartan helmets, you could have some knight helmets, some lances crossing.
Yeah, you could have the same format, but just have like, you know, more medieval.
I'm down. I
look.
dig it. I dig
Yeah.
it. So, you know, that's what we got there. Again, the UK Championship Series I thought was done very well. There were some big moves and some great matches, and it was pleasant to watch. Now, we didn't really get to watch Raw and SmackDown this week.
Well, before we get into Raw and SmackDown, let's
there we
talk
go.
about the rumors going on with Kenny Omega.
Okay, so in last week's podcast, which we will drop, we watched Kenny Omega take on, it was like Kinatashi Ohata in
Yes.
New Japan
That's
for
actually-
their
that's actually
heavyweight
right.
belt. And it was by far what I would consider a 6-star match in one of, I would say, the top 5 of all time matches.
I have watched a lot of, since I've gotten the WWE Network, I've gone back and I've watched old matches. I keep up with Next, 205 Live, and when I have the time to, I keep up during the week with Raw and SmackDown. And I will tell you honestly that the Kenny Omega match that Zach and I watched was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. It went on for over an hour, didn't it?
Well, it was, I think, right at the 54, 55-minute mark.
So
Close. I mean, enough's enough, you know.
It went on. You had two men go out and wrestle at a extremely high level for an hour. You know,
A
55
long
minutes,
pace.
whatever, and
Yeah.
it was paced so well.
The selling of the maneuver, I mean, if you are a fan or if you are a pro wrestler and you're listening to this, go watch it. It was an instant classic, and I promise you, I don't care how long you've been watching wrestling or how long you've been wrestling, you can learn something from that match because those guys did one hell of a job, and my hats are off to them completely. And the rumors, we'll just go ahead and throw it out there, is that there's a real good possibility, I feel, that Kenny Omega will be making an appearance in a WWE ring near you. Now, whether that happens at next week's Royal Rumble that comes in on Sunday,
which I think it will,
or it comes in later on, we'll wait and see. I think he'd be a great addition to SmackDown because I think a Kenny Omega, AJ Styles, or even a Kenny Omega, John Cena rivalry would be amazing and shocking and just it would be great. I don't think he would fit on the Raw roster right now because the Raw roster to me it's your Roman Reigns' limited maneuvers. It's just not there. If Omega comes to the WWE, he has to be on SmackDown. And I feel, even though they listen but they don't listen, that may not be the case because SmackDown, even though they're the little engine that could, has been whipping Raw's ass because they put on a better product week in and week out.
for the past couple weeks.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to tell you why I think he should be on Raw. So, with the TV ratings, we're going to just look at this purely from a business standpoint. With the TV ratings, SmackDown has been on the increase and Raw has been going down. Right now with Raw, all you have to sell is the Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho bromance that you have going on. And it's cool, it's fun, it's funny. At first I wasn't into it, but I've really bought into it the past couple of weeks, especially since on Raw that they now co-own the U.S. Championship.
Which I think's, I don't know about that trash.
I'm okay with it. I mean, Jericho is going to have it, I think. I don't think they're really going to put Kevin Owens out there to defend it, really. I think Chris Jericho will do it. I do think Kevin Owens will have a part in making sure Jericho wins, but he's not going to be the guy in the ring, mainly. So, I think that Raw needs something fresh, new, and exciting, and Kenny Omega offers all of that. He has that kick-ass Terminator entrance. He has just a badass finisher in the one-winged angel finisher. That thing is just...
It's hard to explain. Just look it up.
Yeah.
Look at his top finishing moves on YouTube. They're nasty.
I can't explain it to you, but it's seriously one of the best finishers that I have ever seen. Literally, like, when you watch it and you see him actually perform that move on somebody, it electrifies the stadium. Just the amount of physical power he has to pull off that move. It's awesome. And he's charismatic too. He's I think in the Japan wrestling universe, he is a face, right?
Yeah. Well, he was part. So at one point in time, I think he actually led the Bullet Club. So
that was after AJ Styles left, though.
I think it was before.
Balor. It was before.
I think it was before.
Okay.
I think he's still part of it, and I might be wrong here. Again, I don't get to watch New Japan. It's really hard for us to. We only have so much money to spend on wrestling, so we get what we can get. I would love to be able to watch it all. Lucha Underground, New Japan, TNA. I don't care because I like a good product and I like something different.
I have a little thing on Lucha once we finish this conversation, but
he was a part of Bullet Club, so technically, I believe he was actually the heel. I think it was more or less a heel on heel type match to see who would come away from it.
Well, they didn't in that match. They never did a lot of dirty moves. It was clean.
There was no cheating. It was a straight up match. It was best for best, but still.
Yeah, it was. Just again, like you guys have to go watch that match. It was. Man, was it a good match? It really reinstilled my faith in wrestling as far as like the amateurs, if you will, coming up to the big leagues. It was great. But I really think that they'll send him to Raw because SmackDown has enough star power right now that I don't think that they're going to need anything else. They have some decent rivalries going on. Of course, I don't like the whole part-time John Cena coming in to help with AJ Styles.
Part-time!
But,
it's because they're going to quickly throw on the 16th title on that motherfucker.
No,
to tie up Ric Flair, and then he'll go away.
I don't think he'll tie Ric Flair. I don't see it.
One could only hope.
I mean, it's true. One can only hope.
So I'm going to jump to because I think we need to go ahead and progress. So we're going to go ahead and spin up. I'm going to jump to next in 205 Live so we can move on to other parts of the show.
I mean, we can take as much time as we want. It's our podcast.
True story. And it is on iTunes and SoundCloud.
Shameless
plug.
We're official, motherfucker.
We are official. We're fly as a fucking fresh jar of Skippy.
Yeah, it's your boy Yeezy. And Hova.
So Evan viewed 205 Live this week. I watched next. And I was intrigued and disappointed at that show in many aspects. Excuse me.
Many
asses, which is a small donkey if you don't know. There was a great match between DIY and the Revival. It was solid. It was clean. DIY came out on top. It was great selling by done by DIY altogether. The Revival was really working on Johnny Wrestling. It was just a good all-around match. And then they set up pretty much like the next spot where you have the Authors of Pain who are challenging for the titles. They come in on a sneak attack after the match had ended and beat up on DIY. The one thing I didn't care for on the show was Asuka, who's an outstanding performer in the ring.
Outstanding?
Outstanding, yes. That's a Scotch speaking, folks.
Do you mean outstanding?
That too. And they had the two Australian chicks, Billy Kay, and I can't think of the other one. It doesn't fucking matter. But they're not polished.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Exactly. They're not polished enough to be in the ring with Asuka. And they had this whole tag team doubling up thing, and they tried to do this segment where Asuka got attacked outside of the ring, and it was like she was walking outside the arena, and they threw her in a bus, and the techniques they were dropping on her, it was very poor. Very poorly done. I mean, she did her best to sell it, but the girls did not do a good job putting it on. And, then Asuka's fighting back from injury. that was kind of my low point. She's better than that, and I think they could give her a better opponent, or at least give these girls more time to get polished up to put her in the ring, because she's a stud. When you have Mickie James literally waiting in the wings that they talked about and they've signed her, and they fought, I think it was at Next, Canada, bring her in and do a feud while these other ladies are still perfecting their craft. Doesn't make any sense. Fuck, I don't care. Send one of the other girls back down from one of the other shows that's still a good performer and have them wrestle. That's not a knock on them because Next is that good of a show. But I think throwing two rookies in with a legitimate veteran, watching the two compete, it's a big difference, and I don't care for it.
You know what I think Next should do is to, and they don't have to do this all the time, but it would be very interesting to have like one of those stepping stone wrestlers.
Your mid-carders.
Yeah, you're talking about the women's division. There's a girl on Raw that who is it that helped Charlotte?
Oh, God damn it. What is her name? I know who you're talking about. Blonde.
Yeah.
Always flexing. Yeah.
We're going to just call her that bitch.
Yeah.
So
that bitch.
If that bitch were to come down to Next and say if someone beat her, then they got to come to the Raw or SmackDown show, which I guess for her it would be Raw. Mm-hmm. Like, make it to where in order to advance, you have to win a match against a pro to prove that you're at that level. And you could make it a long, drawn-out match. You can do it at a Next TakeOver event to where you just have to leave it all out on the line and you just have to beat that other person to a pulp. That would be an exciting match to me to show the growth and the strength of a wrestler. I think would be great, because now, like, they just show up. Like when the brand split happened, they did a draft like you would for the NFL and the NBA, and like, well, we select these guys to come in. Now make it a feat of strength. We have all these tournaments with 205 Live and with the United Kingdom tournament going on. Do something like that with Next.
Dana Brooke.
Dana Brooke.
Speaking of.
Yes, Dana Brooke. Thank you. But do something like that. Make it just make it. You don't have to do tournament style or anything like that. Just make it to where you're the number one contender, if you will, on Next, or you're the champion, and you can call out for a shot to win. And even if you lose, like, you still retain your championship, but you have to defend it against others, and after a little bit longer, you can go back and challenge for a spot on SmackDown or Raw again.
I'm down with that. I can understand that aspect, too.
But,
there's plenty of women on both, though, that could easily go down and wrestle. It wouldn't hurt them, that are on both shows.
Imagine, and I'm going to go to the men's side of things, say you had to fight Rusev or Dolph Ziggler for a spot on one of the main shows. That's not out of the question, I don't think. Do you?
No, not at all.
So, I mean, do something like that. Just to change it up. Like, Next always just throws, which, again, of course, I know Kenny Omega isn't a part of Next, but I fully expect at Royal Rumble he's going to show up. And he's either going to be in the Rumble or he might be in one of the matches prior to the Rumble.
Yep.
I think that's how they're going to throw him out there. But, like, there's always that surprise, like, oh, AJ Styles is now on. Well, no, he was drafted, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was the champion.
But he was drafted to go to SmackDown.
He wasn't the champion, I'm sorry. Dean Ambrose was the champion. He was drafted to go to SmackDown, and he beat Ambrose.
But all the other guys, like Finn Balor, for example, he was drafted and then went to Raw. Mm-hmm.
And won the first ever Universal Championship, which is still a horrible freaking name. However,
I don't think
short-lived because Seth Rollins is a douchebag.
Well, he is known for just breaking people's bodies just because.
Sting.
Yeah, like Sting.
How you gonna throw like a 53-year-old man in a turnbuckle like a dickhead?
Yeah.
I digress.
Fuck him. But, I mean, do something other than just the surprise aspect of it. Like make it an event, because you're going to draw more people to your smaller shows like next.
Sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
just do that.
Now, we're going to wrap this up. Give us a real brief overview of what you saw on 205 Live.
So 205 Live, just a few things that I saw. They kind of wrapped up the Cedric Alexander and Noam Dar.
Noam Dar. Dar.
It's hard.
Dar Binks.
Yeah, Dar Binks. The Scottish Supernova, or David, as I like to call him.
No, he didn't.
He's a Scottish guy, super cool. But they wrapped up that feud with him and Alicia Fox. Basically, it ended up with Dar winning the match against Cedric Alexander. Thanks to some accidental help by Alicia Fox, which Alicia Fox still is all about Cedric Alexander. You know, just she went in and tried to help Cedric. Didn't work out the way she planned, and then
saved Noam Dar from a shooting star press.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, so ended up with him winning. And the next thing you had Brian Kendrick and Shane Maluta. This was kind of just an okay match. It wasn't anything great. The Brian Kendrick, he just showed up and he talked about the green mist that Tajiri spit into his face, which I kind of like that they put Tajiri in 205 Live.
Because I love the old school stiff head kicks.
Yes, like he's more of a striker than a grappler.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And like those and Tajiri's kind of dirty. Like he hits you with that green mist, which is always fun to see. It's like those raptors in Jurassic Park. I forget what the technical name for them is.
Velociraptor?
No. Velociraptor.
Oh, yeah, the spinning ones. I got you.
The ones that shoot the little flails out of the side of their neck.
Yeah.
So you have those, but Tajiri is basically that dinosaur. But anyways, so Brian Kendrick comes out and he's talking about how he got spit in the face and then takes on Sean Maluta. Maluta was pretty cool. Showed just a lot of growth from his previous matches, but Brian Kendrick, being dirty as he is, picked up the win off a Captain Hook submission. Nothing really.
Yar.
Yeah, nothing. There wasn't anything really special about that match. It was just, it felt like a squash match more than anything. Next thing you had was WWE had their first parlay, which is where the Extraordinary Gentlemen Jack Gallagher and Arya Daivari came out, and they parlayed to just agree on Monday night. And the ring was set up with a table and a couple of chairs, and they could talk it out like gentlemen for the feud that they had, because Jack Gallagher is, again, he's a British gentleman. That's his gimmick, and it's hilarious. Like, out of every superstar on 205 Live, he's my favorite. I hope that he gets a title, because he's fun to watch. All of his techniques are entirely technical. There's no, like, strength or power to them. And I don't know, I think he's fun to watch. Like, he literally ties opponents into knots. Mm-hmm. And it's hilarious to watch. It's like one of those fun gimmicks that WWE tries to put on, but they did it really well 205 Live with the gentleman aspect. It was just cool. So they tried to talk it out, and Gallagher tried to put up an I forfeit match, which is the same as the I quit match, but he just put a British spin on it. Gallagher kind of got upset about Daivari throwing his umbrella out in the ring, and the Extraordinary Gentleman decided he's just going to attack him. And they beat each other until the officials came out and stopped him.
So he wasn't very gentleman-like. He was more of a dastardly villain.
He was a dastardly villain. And another fun thing as well, and this, I guess maybe this was a shout out to the New Day. Jack Gallagher actually named his umbrella that he uses in a couple of his matches William. So as Francesca for the trombone, you have William the umbrella. So I don't know if like superstars like to name inanimate objects, if that's a thing, and maybe a fetish. I don't know, but
This is Dick the Cup.
yeah, Dick the Cup. Is that what you drink out of? Is Dick the Cup?
Dick Cup.
Dick Cup. All right.
Yes.
So the last match they had was their main event was Tony Reese and Rick Swann,
Rick Swan.
and
Shut up, Swan.
this match was literally just a way for Rick Swann to
Rick Swan.
Rick Swann. Rick Swann.
Sounds like a Chinese dish.
I would eat it. Oh, that sounded gay. I'm sorry. Anyways, man, no, listen. Before I go into this match, I really just want Chinese food.
It's
Like,
gonna be hard at midnight, homie.
we might have good Chinese food after the show. Anyways, so this was pretty much like a stepping stone match to show that Rick Swann is ready for a bout against Neville. It was pretty physical. It was a really good main event match. To kind of sum it up, Rick Swann hit him with a finisher, which he still hasn't named yet. It's kind of like a super kick almost, and he won. I mean, Tony Nese wasn't really a match for him. They were really physical about it, but Rick Swann just came up top. It was a hype match, just I don't want to say squash match, but it was just a hype, just to kind of show Rick Swann can go the distance and last a long match and be very physical. But it wasn't anything special. Another thing too is that Rick Swann really needs to work on his promos.
God, yes.
It's stale. It sounds monotone almost. Like his intro is great, and he looks like he's very outgoing, very fluent. Kind of Eddie Guerrero-esque. But nothing, like when he gets on the mic, it's boring. Like listening to him talk.
Yep.
He needs to have an attitude to himself. He doesn't have that. Neville's been coming out and kicking his ass for the past 2 weeks. Like, be mad about it. Don't, like, Neville right now, of course, went to the UK and has been fucking up wrestlers there. Like, let him know that you're the champ, and that shit's not going to fly. Like, 205 Live is your show.
205 Live is a totally different show.
It might as well be 205 Live, because those fuckers are flying everywhere. But, with that being said, I mean, when you're the champ, it's expected of you to be outgoing and to be, you don't have to be humble. Like, you're the champ. Be outgoing, be an asshole. You can still be a face and be an asshole because you're the man.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Exactly.
I mean, he ain't going to be that. I get the gimmick, and I understand what you're saying. He does need work, but again, I think, that's kind of the 205 Live.
See, now you're saying it.
I'm goddamn doing it. It's still a developmental league, is the way I look at it.
205 Live.
Yeah.
I mean, all those guys are fly. They are.
True. Word. Now, stepping away from the wrestling world, we just finished up which is now the second week of the playoffs in the NFL, where you had the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys play a phenomenal game where it saw the Packers pull off a late win clutch by their kicker, who hit a 56-yarder and a 51-yarder to seal the victory, where I personally think that Dak Prescott proved that he is the future and the continuing quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Zeke, somewhat ineffective. I mean, he had some yards, but Dallas wasn't the same team. I think they came in flat is the best way I can put it, and they had the win, they had the victory, or at least they had the tie. But you gave Aaron Rodgers, as much as I hate him because he's a fucking Packer, 35 seconds. And that's like giving that guy the whole fucking game.
You don't like that Wisconsin cheese going on there?
No, not a fan.
You're not down with that?
No, I'm not down
you
with
like that deep dish?
Yeah, I like that deep dish. You had the Falcons, absolutely, even though the score it doesn't do it justice, just wear the fucking Seahawks out last night. At this point, I feel that Matty Ice is probably your MVP for the league. He's just played too good, has been stone cold the whole freaking season, and has thrown his ass off. You had the Steelers pull out a very close win against the Kansas City Chiefs in a game that went back and forth and really saw the Steelers win it by field goals, to be quite honest. And
how many did they kicked 6, which was a postseason record for the NFL.
Yep. And then you had last but not least the absolutely thrashing that went on in Foxborough with Tom Brady beating the actually reluctant Texans team, but you had Brock Osweiler, his $70 million ass, who threw 3 INTs. That's your sum up of the NFL, kids. You know what's coming up next week. We'll give you a play-by-play. We ain't going to get deep into it because more than likely you've probably seen it yourselves.
Well, we're going to dive deep into it. We're going to talk about, just kind of what we saw as far, like, if there were any...
There was no surprises in any of those games, too.
No, there weren't.
If I was a betting man in Vegas, I would have bet every single team that come out on top. That would have been who would have won. I thought Kansas City would choke. The Steelers had the experience.
Now, time out.
I'm just saying.
Kansas City, even though I don't like them for personal reasons, Kansas City didn't choke. They had some dumbass lineman fuck them over on a 2-point conversion when Alex Smith threw it to. I'm pretty sure he threw it to Kels.
Yeah, to Kelsey for 2. But here's the other thing. That guy was a first-round pick, and he was going up against an old man who is nothing but a beast in James Harrison, who has just been a hell of a linebacker coming from nowhere for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The motherfucker come out of retirement. Like, they told him to retire. And he's like, yeah, okay, fine. And then was in there busting his ass in the weight room, being straight beast mode. And they're like, hey, dog, you still want to play? And he's like, nah, fuck it. And just goes out there and is wrecking fools. And you have a first-round young kid as a lineman. I think it was their left tackle. And, yes, he held him. He tried to pancake him. He got a hold of him trying to protect his quarterback. If he'd have done one more sidestep, he'd have had a clean block on him. But, hey, you live and learn. KC's would have went into freaking New England and got pounded on. Because here's the fact of the matter. At the end of the day, if you want to line up those teams, if anyone's got a good chance in that division to beat New England, it's going to be Pittsburgh.
Well, yes. So I agree that Pittsburgh would have been the better option to go against the Patriots. Because I don't want the Patriots in there. I hate Tom Brady. I hate New England. I hate that whole state. Like, Boston can just go to hell. Like, the Celtics, all of them. Fuck them.
Suck a dick.
Yeah. I have no love for any of them. And if you like them, fuck you. Like, seriously.
But only slightly. Please subscribe to the podcast and like us on Facebook.
No. Yes. I don't want a New England fan subscribing to us. Fuck you.
Even if it's just to bring the hate, please come in.
Listen, you can hate me all that you want, but I will still be better than you. And do you know why? Because you're a New England fan. You're only there because Tom Brady, once he's gone, what are you going to do? Eric Bledsoe? Please.
It was Drew Bledsoe.
Drew Bledsoe, whatever.
Hey, they got Jimmy Garoppolo and a whole list of other guys. Listen, as long as Belichick's there, they'll win championship.
They'll probably get Eric Bledsoe to come play for him still.
Well, it'd be interesting considering he's a point guard
in
the NBA, but
I mean, still.
I digress.
I hate the Patriots.
True. I do too. I'm just trying to be a little bit more biased. Skipping football because I feel, again, everybody's watching it. You have the NBA, and we'll just
I'm full of hate right now. I'm sorry.
Just touch upon our team real quick so that we can move on to what the people truly want, which is the Brew Review. What do you got in the NBA? What happened with Jimmy B tonight?
Oh, Jimmy Butler. So, listen here. So, the past 3 games, he's averaged, I think it's been about 31 points. Been playing against a lot of teams in the West. And he's been great offensively, defensively. tonight we are watching the end of the Bulls and Memphis game.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a nail biter. It ended up being, I think it was 108 to 104 at the end of it. Of course, that was by a big performance from Doug McDermott, who had 31 points. The Bulls are kind of in an interesting spot right now these past 3 games. You have Rajon Rondo, who hasn't been starting for the Bulls. You've had Michael Carter-Williams in place of him. You've still got D. Wade. You still got Jimmy Butler, Taj Gibson, and Robin Lopez, who have been great. Taj Gibson especially, just he's a great power forward, and I'm glad to see him coming off the bench. But you have Jimmy Butler, who had the sickness. I think he had the flu, something like that.
Yeah.
And one game he came in prior to the flu, dropped a huge number of points and assists, and just looked super confident out on the floor. Then he had a game after that to where he only had 1 point, didn't he?
Yeah, he shot horrible.
He looked terrible, but he was sick with the flu. Then he took a game off, and then after that, he came in and played against the Grizzlies tonight, and I think he had 24 points. But the points that he had mattered. He was a superstar mainly on defensive end for that match, and was just great. He's the heart and soul of that team now. It used to be a couple of years ago, it was Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler and Joakim Noah. But now it's just Jimmy Butler. Like, you've got Rajon Rondo and you've got D. Wade, but Butler has stood out, and he's had a great year statistically. Just has been great. And something you won't hear people talk about as well is the heart that he has for the game. My case in point with that is going to be, if you go back, if you've got NBA TV, or if you have some way to watch the Bulls and Grizzlies game, at the end, they already had the game locked up. They were 108, 104. Doug McDermott had already hit 2 of his free throws to put them to where 6.6 seconds left in the entire game. And there was no way they could lose. Like, they could not play defense for 6 seconds. Let them shoot a 3, just not touch anybody. Even if they made the 3 and just got the ball inbound, they'd still fucking win. Like, it was highly unlikely.
Yep.
But Jimmy Butler decides on the inbound, after they make both their free throws, that he wants to steal the ball. Like, he wants to make sure he wins. He had that killer instinct that we've missed ever since the Jordan era.
Yeah, the Kobe, the Jordan killer instinct of the game's not done until that motherfucking clock is set at 0 and the W's in your win column.
Yes, and he has it, and he showed it last night. Or tonight, I should say. Last night, if you listen to this podcast tomorrow. But they inbound the ball, and Jimmy Butler is right there on his fucking man, and just grabs the ball, steals it, lays down on the ground, calls timeout.
He snagged it from Mike Conley.
Mike Conley, yeah. And who's a good...
Oh, yeah, he had like 26 points. I mean, he was tearing the Bulls up. So, he was on top of him and snatched possibly... Because, anything could happen, victory from defeat to ensure that the win was there.
Yeah. And, I mean, that says something about a player. Like, you were going to win no matter what. Like, if it had been the Cavs or another high-profile team, they would have just let it go and let them try to make a shot. But Jimmy Butler wants to win. And that's something that people need to see in their players more, is that you don't have that heart that you have from other players. Butler, I mean, he comes in, night out, whether he's sick or not. Even if he does shitty and gets 1 point like he did last week, he's still going to come out and produce the next week. He's going to be sick and shit's going to happen, but it's just impressive. It's nice to see from the walk of life that Zach and I come from, to see that a guy still has the gumption to go out there and win a game like that. It doesn't matter that you're going to win no matter what. Like, just to make sure, like, to let people know, like, you're the fucking champ. Like, you're going to win. Like, this game is mine. Like, go in all the way. it's not that bad to do that. You know, I mean, people might see it as unsportsmanlike, but I mean, fuck. You know, if you're gonna win, like, I want to beat you by 50. I don't want to beat you by 1.
Exactly.
I'm sorry about it.
Absolutely. Now, Evan, I think we need to transition into what is the heart and soul of this podcast and why we really started to do it, minus the wrestling aspect, which we touched plenty upon tonight, is the brew review, which tonight we have, as you put it, the Ballast Point Brewing Company. It is a Victory at Sea porter with coffee and vanilla. It is an
Imperial porter.
Now, it is a 10% by volume, so this is a potent beer, ladies and gentlemen. And it is bottled in San Diego, California.
Whale's vagina.
And dedicated to the craft is what it says on the side. So what we like to do on this podcast is we will pop the top, as you will hear it in a second, and give you our unfiltered first reviews of this beer.
Absolutely.
First off, the logo is awesome. It's a badass skull pirate with his parakeet, who is also in a skull, at the helm of a ship with a thunderous storm behind them.
Yes. Something a little different we're going to do, Zach. One of us is going to drink it while the other talks. Because I hate the silence that we have when we both drink it and we have to think about the taste.
Because no one likes silence.
I don't like... Listen.
Unless it's during a blowjob.
Well... Not even then. You know what? Why don't you take your first drink of that and tell me what you think? And while you're drinking it, I will. While you're explaining it, I will take a drink.
It smells wonderful. To give you that off the bat, it is definitely, you can smell the coffee and vanilla in it.
I smell a vanilla smell to it. What does it taste like?
It tastes like black coffee with a hint of vanilla. Straight up. That is black coffee with a hint of vanilla. And that's actually good. I like it. It's bitter towards the end.
I wouldn't say vanilla. It has a darker taste. It has a hazelnut.
No,
it has a nutty, for me, it has a nutty taste to it.
To me, it tastes like if you took a strong cup of black coffee and you put just a hint of some type of coffee creamer in it. I'm talking like a drop to cut that bitterness off of it, and then you get the bitterness back in. I like it, though. We do a lot of IPAs, or we have at least in the last couple of weeks, so this is a big, different step for us. I like that. Now, I couldn't have it with a meal.
You couldn't have it with a meal? Is it too heavy for you?
No, I think the taste would be really funky to have. It's one of those beers that has such a defining taste to it that it would kind of jack up whatever you eat. Now, maybe with a dessert, like something sweet, you could have it with, because it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum.
So, do you remember on my birthday, we ordered it was an apple, it was like ice cream. It was like I don't want to say apple fritter.
No. It was, God damn it.
God, my birthday's October 1st for anyone that wants to know.
Yes, I know exactly what you were talking about. It was pretty much like an apple tart with ice cream and everything else in it, and the way it was done.
Yes.
Which was phenomenal. And I cannot think of the name with it. It had a caramel sauce with it.
Yes.
Very thin sliced apples that had been slightly fried, and then the pastry and ice cream that was with it. It was phenomenal.
This would pair well with that.
Absolutely.
Like, so again, what you're saying, like desserts, something very sweet, like an ice creamish kind of deal. This would be great for that. And I could have this by myself. Like some craft beers are like
you gotta pair them with food.
You have to pair them with food, or you have to have them as a meal, as a lot of craft beer guys like to call it.
Yeah.
And this definitely, I mean, that puts it up in that area. Like, it might be something like it is like a meal beer. Mm-hmm. So the taste is very distinguished. It's not overbearing, but I mean it's like it is similar to having coffee in the morning, but it's not a vanilla flavor for me. No. It's more of a hazelnut.
You can still get the flavors to it. I enjoy it. I would definitely recommend it if you're a stout fan or porter fan. I think it kind of goes along with both. You can handle it. What would you say for our beginner craft beer drinkers? What would you advise it to them?
For beginner craft beer drinkers, it's an imperial porter. I'm gonna assume that beginner craft beer drinkers are used to Coors Light, Bud Light, and just regular Budweiser. This may not be the best first porter that you have because it's imperial, because it does have a little bit of a hint of like that fruitiness from like IPAs that you get. It's very small, but it's not heavy. So, with that being said, I wouldn't have it as your first porter. The first porter, honestly, which I've had before, and maybe Zach and I will have it one day. Like maybe we'll do a day where we do like 2 brew reviews, and we can have a Founder Stout. Because Founders has a stout called Breakfast Stout that is delicious, and it's perfect for a first-time stout drinker, in my opinion.
Okay.
Stouts also as well, like they're very heavy. They're all dark beers.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not.
And for a fan base who doesn't know, because we're talking a little bit over some people's heads, I'm sure.
Probably.
Is a dark beer a stout or a porter like this? I don't feel you're not going to sit down with your buddies and drink 6 or 7 of them.
No.
You might, but you're not going to enjoy it afterwards.
The next day you won't enjoy it.
It's a heavier, thicker beer. It's higher in alcohol content generally. They taste great, but you're not going to put them away like you would your Pilsners or even your light lagers.
Yeah, it's a... Stouts are really prominent in the winter months because they're heavy. They're often regarded as meal beers where you just have them by yourself and it will fill you up very quickly.
Or as what I like to call it, alcoholic's delight.
Yeah. So
they can't afford real beer. Don't worry. I was just joking about that.
So you know it's stouts are something you should have, in my opinion, if you really want to dabble with it in the winter when you're coming in from a cold night, whether you come out from work or you're out to dinner, it's a cold night, you got in and you're waiting for your food to get there, you have like one stout. I would say that's probably what you want to kind of reach for in the winter months. Otherwise, you don't see a whole lot of stouts out there. It's not a beginner stout just because it has that little kick of fruitiness at the end of it. If you did Founder's Breakfast Stout, I think that would be a nice beginner because there's no fruitiness. It's a pure stout. It's something that you could have by itself. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I would say, like, this is a good stout. Like, I love stouts. Like, stouts are probably my favorite. And then IPAs come in after that just because my taste buds are more acclimated to craft beer.
Sure. So we'll say this at the end. It's a good one. If you're into the craft beer scene already, go pick up a 6-pack, try it. You will enjoy it.
Victory at sea.
It's also one of those, I will add this. When I first started off with craft beer, I realized in certain instances, especially with dark lagers or stouts, once it gets off of being completely cold, like straight out of the fridge, the flavor profile will change a little bit. Yeah. And it actually kind of smoothed out there. So I enjoy it. I recommend it. If you're a newbie, if you will, maybe wait until you try a couple other lesser stouts that aren't as potent. And again, we will give the viewer a warning. Craft beers have a higher alcohol content. You're not going to go out with your boys or your girls and slam 4 or 5 of them and think you're going to jump behind the wheel. Not that we suggest that in the beginning, in the first place, behind any beer.
Never.
But definitely not with a craft beer because It's so much higher in alcohol content, and that was Evan dropping his phone like a newbie jackass. But
this motherfucker.
It's so much higher in alcohol content that you won't even realize that you're fucked up until you're there. So just be careful with it. Again, this one beer right here is 10%, which is crazy to think about because that's about, I think, probably the highest thing that we've tried. Eventually, we're gonna get that snake oil. What is it? Oil.
It's called snake. It's called snake bite, and you can only get it in Scotland. And currently on Amazon, it is still sold out. But
eventually, we'll try it. It's like what 60 or 70%.
It's seriously like it's probably more alcohol than it is anything else.
It's goddamn Jack Daniels in a beer form.
It is. Fuck! It's more than Jack Daniels. Don't be like that. But we have a buddy that actually lived in Scotland for a long time, and his parents apparently live there still. And we're trying to get him to convince his parents to bring us
just a bottle.
Like Zach and I can split it. And that'll be like a special episode, like, because the day we get it, like, we're going to tell you about it. Because this, from what I hear, like, I've read mountains of reviews.
I watched a video of guys drinking it. It looks a little rough.
It's tough to drink, but, like, you sip that shit and you're fucked. Like, don't even consider getting out of the wheel. Like, if I have it and we do a podcast at Zach's house, like, I'm staying there. Like, fuck it. Like, it will destroy you.
Time to curl up on the couch, kids. No one's going home.
That is a couch beer. Like, I will be done by that point.
Absolutely. So, in the ending, I will say, the beer was good. The scotch we had tonight, which was Glenmorangie, if you will, in my country ass bumpkin accent.
Glenmorangie.
No, it's Morangie.
Is it?
The Brit told me.
The Brit told you it's Morangie?
Yes.
All right. Well, what is the
Nectar d'Or, which apparently in Gaelic the d'Or part is gold. It's a 12-year brandy.
Gold nectar.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a 12-year Scotch. It was really tasty. It's about mid-price at $63. What would be the equivalent of a fifth? Really good.